Verse 34. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. So I personally love this verse, because think about it this way. So everything that we've been talking about this morning, we kind of know is the correct biblical answer to our anxieties, right? I don't need to be anxious because God provides. And it is true. These truths here are beautiful, and the application to seek first God's kingdom and righteousness makes sense. But also still, the reality is, at least for me, that this is hard to put into practice day in and day out. Right? It really is, because and I'm sure your emotions are all over the place. Right? And there's so many things that go on in our lives. Plus, there's so many things that we think about, and we know there's so many things that could happen in the future. And so all that said, the idea of being like the birds and knowing God provides is good and helpful, and yet in our actual lives, it can be tough. And so the question is, how can you and I really start to apply this? And that's where what Jesus says here in verse 34 is so helpful, because Jesus is clear. A concrete way to apply all of this about trusting God and not being anxious is to zoom in and simply apply this to what you're going through today. It's that simple here. Focus on today. Because as for tomorrow will have its own worries. It'll have its own things that come. And God knows them, but you can't know them, and you can't experience them now anyways. And so we do not focus on tomorrow, because sufficient for the day is its own trouble, which implies in this passage concerning trusting God, focus on today. Today has enough potential anxieties that you should trust God with. That's Jesus' point. And really, I think that's just so practical. And that's why I've started to love this verse more and more, because brothers and sisters, we all know life is hard and complex, and there's so many issues every single one of us in this room deals with. And yet, guess what? Each and every one of us in our complex lives, we live day by day. Day by day. We have to. And now, yes, again, this doesn't mean that there's not things like planning for the future or being diligent or being wise or anything like that. But the truth is, church, we do not control our lives as much as we think. And we don't know what our futures will bring. Right? Only the Lord does. And so how should we approach everything going on in our complex lives? Well, Jesus is saying, take it day by day. Today's troubles, they are enough. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. And so we should simply aim to trust God today for whatever you have going on today.